The last time I saw Renner alive, genuinely alive, not whatever he became after, was February 19th, and he was laughing. I mention this because people keep asking me what the warning signs were. They want a neat story, a deterioration arc. Man cracks under polar isolation, violence ensues. But Renner was laughing that morning. He'd burned the porridge and was scraping the pot into the waste bin, and Kowalski was giving him grief in 3 languages, and the whole mess hall smelled like scorched oats, and everything was completely fine. I need to explain the station first. Halverson Ice Monitoring Station sits 1,400 kilometers from the nearest permanent settlement, on a granite shelf overlooking the Barrow Strait in the Canadian Arctic archipelago. It was built in 1987 by Environment Canada, retrofitted in 2004, and partially decommissioned in 2019, when the automated sensor network made continuous human presence theoretically optional. I say theoretically because the automated systems fail constantly. Ice buildup on the anemometers, satellite uplink interference during magnetic storms, corrosion on the fuel transfer lines. Someone has to be there. So they keep a winter crew, 5 people, October through April, when the strait freezes solid and aircraft can't land reliably. I'd done 3 overwinters by then. This was my 4th. You don't keep coming back to these places because you love suffering. You come back because the silence has a quality that nothing else replicates. Because the work is tangible. You fix a thing. You measure a thing. The data goes somewhere useful. And because, after enough rotations, the outside world starts feeling like the foreign place. Our crew that year, myself, Maren Goss, Station Chief and Atmospheric Data Coordinator, Renner Olofsson, Mechanical Systems, Panya Kowalski, Communications and IT, Dr. Yuki Nakamura, Medical Officer and Ice Core Researcher, and Deshaun Carter, Safety and Logistics, newest member, 2nd rotation overall. The station is arranged in a linear chain of 5 modules connected by enclosed walkways. Module 1 is living quarters. Module 2 is the mess and common area. Module 3 is the server room and communications suite. Module 4 is the workshop and equipment storage. Module 5 is the emergency supply depot and secondary exit, a reinforced annex with its own generator, rations for 30 days, and a steel door rated to withstand sustained winds of 220 kilometers per hour. Between Module 4 and Module 5, there is a door, heavy-gauge steel painted red, with a rotating lever lock and a pressure seal designed for fire containment. This door is designated D3 on the station schematics, but everyone calls it Door 3. It is the only interior door in the station that requires 2-person authorization to open, and the only door connected to both the fire suppression panel and the independent alarm circuit. The policy is simple. Door 3 does not open during winter operations unless there is a declared emergency requiring access to the Module 5 depot. This is not unusual. Many polar stations have similar protocols around emergency supply segregation. You don't want crew accessing survival rations for casual use. You don't want the backup generator running when it doesn't need to. The seal keeps Module 5 at a stable negative pressure relative to the rest of the station, which is a fire safety measure. If a blaze breaks out in Modules 1 through 4, the pressure differential prevents smoke from reaching the emergency shelter. That's the official explanation, and for 3 winters, it was sufficient. I never questioned it. None of us did. The door was just there, red, latched, quiet. Until February 19th, when Renner burned the porridge and everything was fine, and then February 20th, when everything wasn't. I should describe what polar darkness does to routine. By mid-February, we hadn't seen the sun in 9 weeks. The station ran on artificial schedule, lights simulating dawn at 0700, simulating dusk at 2100. But human circadian systems aren't easily fooled. Everyone's sleep was fragmented. Kowalski kept a log of her own patterns and showed me one morning. She hadn't slept more than 4 consecutive hours since January 8th. This is normal for overwinter. You adapt. Your waking hours take on a slightly hallucinatory quality, not in the sense of seeing things, but in the sense of time becoming elastic. An hour in the server room could feel like 3. A whole evening of cards could compress into what felt like 20 minutes. February 20th began with the storm alarm at 0340. I say began, but really, the storm had been building for 2 days. Barometric pressure dropping steadily, from 1,013 millibars on the 17th down to 988 by the night of the 19th. Wind out of the northwest at 60 knots, gusting higher. Temperature -42 with the wind. The station shook. Not dramatically. Halverson is bolted to bedrock, but enough that you felt it in your bones. The walls flexed. The connecting walkways between modules groaned with thermal stress. Renner woke me at 0355. He'd been on night watch, and his face had that bloodless look people get when something's wrong, but they haven't processed it yet. Marin. The external sensor array on the north face is reading a heat signature. Animal? I asked. Polar bears occasionally investigated the station, drawn by the warmth radiating from the walls. -42 outside, he said. This signature is reading +4, and it's stationary, against the exterior wall of Module 5. I got dressed and met him in the comm suite. Kowalski was already there, running diagnostics on the sensor. It's not a malfunction, she said without looking up. Thermal camera confirms. Something approximately 2 meters tall, 1 meter wide, surface temperature roughly 4 degrees Celsius, pressed against the northwest exterior panel of Module 5. Bear, I said again, less certain. A bear's core temperature is 37 degrees, Nakamura said from the doorway. She'd come in silently, still in her sleep clothes, hair pulled back. External surface temperature in these conditions would read -15 to -20, factoring fur insulation and wind chill. 4 degrees is not a bear. We stood together watching the thermal readout. The signature didn't move. The wind was screaming outside, sustained 70 knots now, and this thing, whatever it was, stood motionless against our wall. No living organism I could think of maintained surface temperature of 4 degrees Celsius in -42 ambient with 70-knot wind. That's not how thermodynamics works. Could be a mechanical source, Kowalski offered. Exhaust from the Module 5 backup generator. Generator's not running, Renner said. It's been offline since November. Could it be running without us knowing? Carter asked. He'd appeared last, boots unlaced, still blinking sleep away. Renner shook his head. Fuel lines physically disconnected. I winterized it myself. We watched the thermal signature for 40 minutes. It didn't move. It didn't change temperature. It didn't grow or shrink. At 0435, with the storm intensifying, I made the call to treat it as an instrumentation anomaly and revisit at first light, which, at our latitude in February, meant around 1100 when we'd get a brief period of nautical twilight. But the signature was gone by morning. The thermal cameras showed it disappearing at 0612, not moving away, disappearing. One frame present, next frame absent. The system recorded at 1-second intervals. Between 06:12:44 and 06:12:45, the shape was there, and then it wasn't. Sensor glitch, Kowalski said at breakfast. She'd had 3 hours of sleep and was on her second pot of coffee. Thermal cameras ice over, data corruption, storm interference. I agreed with her. We all did. We documented it in the station log as an instrumentation anomaly during extreme weather, and we went about our day. 3 days later, Renner reported that the fuel consumption in Module 5's heating loop had increased by 11%, despite no change in thermostat settings and no occupancy. This should have been impossible, because Module 5's heating loop was supposed to be running at minimum maintenance level, just enough to keep pipes from freezing. I asked him to investigate remotely, using the building management system terminal in the workshop. He came to me that evening with a printout. The thermostat in Module 5 is set to 18 degrees. That's wrong, I said. It should be at 6. I know. I tried to adjust it remotely. The system won't accept the input. It says there's a local override in place. A local override meant someone had physically changed the thermostat inside Module 5, behind door 3. When was it changed? He pointed to the log timestamp, February 20th, 0612. The exact second the thermal signature vanished from the exterior wall. I want to be clear about my state of mind here, because later, during the debrief, they kept asking whether isolation psychosis could explain what followed. I was tired. Everyone was tired. But I was not hallucinating. I was not paranoid. I was, if anything, too rational. I kept trying to find mechanical explanations when the evidence was pointing somewhere else. The protocol for opening door 3 required 2 authorized personnel and a logged reason. I was one of the authorized personnel. Renner was the other. On February 24th, I proposed to Renner that we conduct an inspection of Module 5 to investigate the thermostat anomaly and the elevated fuel consumption. He agreed. We informed the rest of the crew, suited up with flashlights and tools, and approached door 3 at 1400. The door looked exactly as it always had. Red paint, slightly abraded at the edges from years of thermal expansion and contraction. The lever lock was in its sealed position. The pressure gauge on the adjacent panel read -3 pascals, Module 5 maintaining its designed underpressure relative to Module 4. Renner turned the lever. The seal broke with a soft exhalation of air, the pressure equalizing. He pulled the door open. The walkway between Module 4 and Module 5 was approximately 8 meters long. It should have been dark. No one had been in here since October, and the walkway lights were on a manual switch inside Module 5. But it wasn't dark. There was a faint illumination, amber-colored, coming from the far end, like the sodium glow of a street lamp filtered through fog. Heating must have activated the emergency lighting, Renner said. Emergency lighting is white LED, I said, not amber. We stood there for a moment. The air coming from Module 5 was warm, not 18 degrees warm, warmer. It smelled different from the rest of the station. The station smelled like recycled air, metal, diesel residue, instant coffee. Module 5's air smelled like wet stone, like the inside of a cave after rain. Something's wrong with the ventilation, Renner said. He stepped into the walkway. I followed. 8 meters has never felt longer. Our footsteps echoed off the corrugated walls. The amber light grew brighter as we approached the inner door of Module 5, an ordinary fire door, unpainted, with a push bar. Renner pressed it open. Module 5's emergency depot was a single large room, approximately 12 meters by 8, with steel shelving units along 3 walls, holding rations, medical supplies, replacement parts, cold weather gear. The backup generator sat in a caged alcove to the right. The ceiling was standard modular panels with recessed fluorescent fixtures. None of the fluorescent fixtures were on. The amber light was coming from the walls themselves, not uniformly, in patches. Irregular shapes, roughly hand-sized, distributed across the interior surfaces of the module at seemingly random intervals. They pulsed very slowly. A 7-second cycle, brightening, dimming, brightening. What the fuck? Renner whispered. I approached the nearest patch. It was on the wall beside the main shelving unit, about chest height. Close up, it appeared to be beneath the surface of the paint, not on the wall, in it, as though the wall material itself had become luminescent in this specific area. I reached out and touched it. Warm. Not hot. Warm. Human body, warm. And it yielded slightly under my fingertip. The wall, which should have been rigid insulated steel panel, gave like skin over muscle. I pulled my hand back. We need to leave, I said. Renner was already ahead of me, moving toward the generator alcove. Wait, look at this. The generator was a CAT diesel unit, yellow and black, mounted on vibration dampeners. It should have been cold, inert, disconnected. It was running. I could hear it now that I was listening for it. A low hum, almost subsonic, more felt than heard. But the sound wasn't mechanical. Diesel engines have a specific rhythm, a compression-ignition pattern. This was continuous, like a sustained exhalation. And the generator's casing was covered in the amber patches. Dozens of them. They pulsed in unison. Renner, we need to leave now. He was transfixed. His hand was extended toward the generator, fingers spread, as though warming himself at a fire. It's so warm, he said. Marin, when was the last time you felt genuinely warm? That question hit differently than it should have, because he was right. 4 months of polar winter, -30, -40 outside. The station's heating kept interior temperatures at 20 degrees, but you were never warm. The cold was always there, in the walls, in the floor through your socks, in the air that leaked through seals. You wore layers indoors. You slept under 3 blankets. You forgot what warmth felt like, as a thing that soaked into you rather than a thing you had to fight for. And Module 5 was warm. Genuinely, deeply, completely warm. The kind of warm that made your muscles relax involuntarily. Renner. I grabbed his arm. His skin was hot to the touch. He looked at me, and his pupils were dilated, enormous, nearly erasing the blue of his irises. Don't you feel it? He asked. Don't you feel how good this is? I dragged him back through the fire door, through the walkway, through door 3. I sealed the lever lock. He didn't resist, but he kept looking back over his shoulder, and when I got him into the bright artificial light of Module 4's workshop, he blinked like someone pulled from deep sleep. What happened? He asked. You went vacant, I told him, for about 30 seconds. You were reaching toward the generator. He sat on a workbench, rubbing his face. I remember the light, the patches on the walls, then just warmth, like being held. He looked embarrassed. I don't know how to explain it. I called a full crew meeting. In the mess, with all 5 of us present, I described what we'd found. The luminescent patches, the warmth, the generator running without fuel connection, Renner's brief dissociative episode. I kept my voice neutral. I gave facts. I asked for hypotheses. Kowalski spoke first. Bioluminescent contamination, some kind of extremophile organism that colonized the module during the unmaintained period. Nakamura shook her head. Organisms luminescent enough to light a room exist in marine environments, not terrestrial, not in the Arctic, and nothing biological maintains a 7-second pulse cycle with that regularity. What about the thermal signature from the 20th? Carter said. He'd been quiet until now, arms crossed, leaning against the far wall. +4 degrees against the exterior. Then it vanishes. Same timestamp as the thermostat override. Something came inside. Through what? Kowalski asked. The walls are insulated steel on reinforced concrete footings. There's no breach point. Through the wall, Carter said. Whatever this is, it's in the wall material now. You said the light was inside the paint, not on it. In it. The room was quiet. Wind battered the exterior. The lights above us flickered momentarily, power fluctuation from the storm, and in that half-second of darkness, I could have sworn I saw the faintest amber glow coming from the direction of the Module 3-4 connector walkway. When the lights came back, everyone was looking at the same spot. "It's spreading," Renner said. I made 3 decisions in the next hour. First, no one enters Module 5. Door 3 stays sealed. Second, we run a full thermal and visual inspection of every interior surface in Modules 1 through 4, documenting any anomalies. Third, we activate the emergency radio beacon and request advisory contact with the coordinating office in Resolute Bay. The inspection took 4 hours. We worked in pairs, Renner with Carter, Kowalski with Nakamura, myself floating between. We checked every wall, ceiling panel, floor section, pipe chase, and electrical conduit. We found 2 patches, both in Module 4, the workshop directly adjacent to Door 3, one on the floor near the exterior wall, roughly the size of a dinner plate, one on the ceiling above the door to the Module 3-4 connector, both pulsing amber at the same 7-second interval as the ones in Module 5. I photographed them. Close up, they looked like stained glass lit from behind, beautiful in an abstract way. The edges were diffuse, bleeding outward into the surrounding material like watercolor into wet paper. Kowalski couldn't reach Resolute. The satellite uplink was disrupted, not unusual in these conditions, but the HF radio should have worked. She got static, not ordinary static. The static had a rhythm to it. She played it for me on the speaker, and my stomach clenched because I could hear it. 7 seconds rising, 7 seconds falling. The radio interference was pulsing at the same frequency as the light. "It's in the communications system," she said. Her face was very controlled, but her hands were shaking. "It's in the wiring." I looked at her. "Can you isolate Module 4's electrical circuit from the rest of the station?" "Yes. But if it's already in the Module 3-4 connector ceiling, it might already be in Module 3's wiring too." "Then check Module 3. Now." She went with Nakamura. They came back 20 minutes later. Nakamura was holding a panel she'd removed from the server room wall, a 60 by 60 centimeter sheet of painted drywall. The back of it was covered in amber luminescence. The entire panel, pulsing. "It's behind the walls in Module 3, Nakamura said. "All of them. Every panel we pulled. The structural steel beneath is still clean, but the interior finishing material is saturated." I felt something I hadn't felt in years of polar work. Real, immediate fear. Not the abstract anxiety of isolation, not the manageable dread of a bad storm, but acute danger fear. The kind that makes your hands want to do something. "We evacuate to Modules 1 and 2, I said. "We physically disconnect all wiring between Module 2 and Module 3. We use Module 1 and 2's independent electrical loop only. We seal the Module 2-3 connector door, and we do not open it." "That cuts us off from communications entirely," Kowalski said. "We have the portable satellite phone in Module 1, battery-powered, separate from station wiring." "And if it's already in Module 2? Carter asked. "Then we inspect Module 2 right now, and if it's clean, we seal ourselves in and we figure this out." We inspected Module 2. It was clean. Every wall, floor, ceiling, no patches, no luminescence, no warmth anomalies. Same for Module 1. We disconnected the wiring at the Module 2-3 junction box, which meant physically cutting 4 cable bundles with wire cutters. When Renner severed the last one, the lights in Module 3, visible through the glass panel in the connector door, flickered and then stabilized, which shouldn't have happened if we'd just cut their power supply. Module 3 was generating its own power now. We sealed the connector door, we pushed a steel equipment cabinet against it, and we activated the satellite phone and called Resolute. I got through to the overwinter coordinator, a man named Singh, at 22:40 local time. I explained the situation clinically. Anomalous bioluminescent contamination in modules 3 through 5. Unknown origin, spreading through interior building materials. Possible interference with electrical systems, requesting emergency evacuation advisory. Singh was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Marin, what's the exterior condition?" Sustained storm, 70 to 90 knot winds, -46 with wind chill. Whiteout. No aircraft can reach you in those conditions. Forecast shows the system persisting for another 72 hours, minimum. I'm aware. Are all crew members accounted for and healthy? Yes. Is anyone exhibiting psychological symptoms? Confusion, paranoia, hallucination? I understood what he was doing. Standard protocol. Verify whether the reporter is reliable. No. All 5 crew are alert, coherent, and in agreement about what we've observed. I have photographs. Can you transmit them? Not on the sat phone. Data uplink is in Module 3, which is compromised. Another long pause. Marin, I need to tell you something. Do you have the station's original commissioning documents in your Module 1 files? Paper copies of the operational manual, yes? Look at Appendix F. It's a sealed section, red envelope, stapled to the inside back cover. I'm authorizing you to open it. Sealed section? Just read it. Call me back after. And Marin, don't open door 3 again, under any circumstances. He disconnected. I found the manual in the Module 1 filing cabinet. It was a thick binder, ring-bound, with Environment Canada logos on the cover. I'd referenced it dozens of times over my rotations, plumbing schematics, emergency procedures, maintenance schedules. I'd never noticed Appendix F, but when I turned to the back cover, there it was, a red envelope, sealed with wax and countersigned across the flap by 2 people whose signatures I didn't recognize. Dated 1987, the year the station was built. I broke the seal in front of the whole crew. Inside was a single typewritten page, slightly yellowed, and a hand-drawn diagram. The page read, Appendix F. Restricted Operational Note. Halverson Monitoring Station. Classification, Site Management Only. During geological survey preceding construction, April to June 1986, drilling team encountered anomalous thermal stratum at 340 meters depth. Core samples from this depth exhibited persistent luminescent properties under laboratory conditions and maintained temperature of 4 degrees Celsius regardless of ambient environment. Samples were transferred to NRC laboratories in Ottawa. Within 6 weeks of extraction, all samples had expanded their luminescent area by approximately 300% and had begun to integrate with containment vessel materials. Decision was made to construct monitoring station directly above drilling site for long-term observation purposes. Module 5 positioned over primary bore location. Module 5 is not an emergency supply depot. Module 5 is a containment observation chamber. Door 3 protocol exists to prevent casual exposure. Under no circumstances should personnel make physical contact with luminescent material. Under no circumstances should luminescent material be permitted to reach Module 1 or Module 2, which house personnel during sleep. If luminescent material breaches Module 3, evacuate to Module 1/2, sever electrical connection, contact Resolute coordination for extraction timeline. If luminescent material breaches Module 2, Evacuate station immediately, regardless of exterior conditions. The diagram showed the station layout with depth contours of the thermal stratum below. It extended, according to the 1986 survey, approximately 200 meters in every direction from the bore site. A circle of warmth, living in the bedrock, 340 meters below the ice. I read it twice. The crew read it in silence. Kowalski's hands weren't shaking anymore. She'd gone past that into a kind of flat clarity. "They built the station on top of it on purpose," she said. "We've been living on top of it for 38 years. "It's been in Module 5 the whole time," Nakamura added. "The depot was a cover story. All those supplies, nobody was ever supposed to use them. It was a monitoring chamber." "And they staffed it with people who didn't know," Carter said. His voice was tight. "We've been sleeping above this thing for 4 months. 3 years, I corrected. I've done 3 previous winters." That landed differently. 3 years of sleeping above something that lived in the rock. 3 years of door 3, read and locked, and me never asking why. Renner hadn't spoken. He was sitting on his bunk, hands in his lap, staring at the floor. When I looked at him, he looked up, and his expression was complicated. Not frightened, not angry, but something I couldn't name. "It felt good," he said. "In there, when it was pulling me toward the generator. It felt like being welcomed somewhere." "You said it felt like being held," I reminded him. "Yes." He paused. "What if it's not hostile? What if it's just reaching out? It's been down there for God knows how long. We drilled into it. We built on top of it. Maybe it's been trying to make contact this whole time, and the door was always in the way." "Renner," Nakamura said sharply, "you touched it, or nearly touched it. You lost awareness for 30 seconds. That's not contact. That's predation. We don't know that. We know it's spreading. We know it's consuming building materials and converting them. We know it interfered with your cognition. That's enough." I watched this exchange carefully. The previous stories in my mind, the ones people tell about polar stations, always have the crew fracturing along predictable lines. Someone snaps, someone becomes the threat. I didn't want that to be us. But I could see the shape of it forming. Renner, who had felt the warmth, who had found it welcoming, separating in his reasoning from the rest of us who had not. "We stay in Modules 1 and 2, I said. "We maintain radio contact with Resolute on the sat phone at 6-hour intervals. When the storm breaks, they send extraction. Nobody opens the Module 2-3 connector. Nobody goes back." 4 voices said some version of agreement. I made sure to count them. All and 4. The first night in lockdown was February 24th. The storm was still raging. We had food, water, heat, and power. Modules 1 and 2 had an independent fuel supply and heating loop, designed for exactly this kind of segmented operation. We had each other. 5 people in 2 modules meant close quarters, but we were used to that. At 02:30 on February 25th, I woke to the sound of scratching. Not loud, delicate, like a fingernail drawn slowly across sheet metal. It was coming from the wall behind my bunk, the wall that separated Module 1 from the exterior. I pressed my ear against it and listened. The scratching stopped. Then the wall grew warm under my ear, not gradually, suddenly, like a heating pad switched on. I jerked back. I got up and examined the wall with my flashlight. Nothing visible, no amber patches, just standard off-white painted paneling. But when I placed my palm flat against it, the warmth was there, faint but unmistakable, coming from outside. I went to the thermal camera monitor in Module 2. We'd repositioned one exterior camera to cover Module 1's north wall during the storm. The feed showed the familiar swirling whiteout of blowing snow. No thermal signature. Nothing at +4 degrees. But I watched for 10 minutes, and at 02:47, a shape materialized at the edge of frame. It wasn't the same shape as before. The first signature, on February 20th, had been roughly humanoid in outline. This was broader, lower. It moved along the wall, and where it passed, the wall temperature readings ticked up by half a degree. Then 1 degree. Then 2. It was touching the building, running itself along the exterior like a tongue along teeth. I woke everyone. By 0300 we were all watching. The shape, this formless warm mass, was circumnavigating Module 1. Slowly. Taking approximately 15 minutes to complete each circuit. Each time it passed the same section of wall, the temperature reading was slightly higher. "It's warming the module from outside," Kowalski said. "Like it's trying to... what? Heat us?" "Soften the material," Nakamura said. "The patches in Module 5, Module 4, 3, they're integrated with the building material. It gets into the structure by warming it first. The thermal gradient makes the material permeable somehow. Then we need to cool the walls," I said. "We're in the Arctic in February," Carter said. "The walls are already -30 on the exterior surface. How much colder can they get?" "The heating," I said. "We turn off the Module 1 heating loop, let the interior temperature drop, meet it from the inside, make the wall too cold for it to penetrate." "We'll freeze," Renner said. "We have cold weather survival gear. Down suits, sleeping bags rated to -40. It's uncomfortable. We'll survive." "For how long?" Renner asked. "The storm could last another 3 days. You want us to live in -20 for 3 days? I want us alive when extraction arrives." It was the first real conflict. Not Renner against me. Renner against the idea of suffering when the alternative was warmth. And I understood it. God, I understood it. The desire to be warm. It was so fundamental, so animal, that arguing against it felt like arguing against breathing. But I turned off the heating. Within 2 hours, the interior of Module 1 dropped to 6 degrees. Within 4 hours, -3. We were in full down suits, breathing clouds, feet going numb despite insulated boots. The walls were cold again. The thermal camera showed the exterior shape slowing its circuits, then stopping, then dissipating. By 0800, it was gone. "It withdrew," I said. "It can't get through when the temperature gradient is working against it." "So, our survival strategy is freezing to death slowly instead of... what? Being absorbed by something warm?" Renner's voice was cutting. "We don't know what absorption means for a person," Nakamura said. "But we know what hypothermia means. We know how to manage it. I'll monitor everyone hourly." I called Singh, told him the situation. He listened, asked a few questions, and said extraction was staged for the first weather window. Twin Otter on standby in Resolute. The moment wind dropped below 30 knots, they'd fly. 72 hours, he said. Maybe less if the system weakens faster than forecast. Copy. And Marin, the document in Appendix F. Did everyone read it? Yes. How's morale? We're cold and frightened, and some of us are angry, but we're coherent and together. Keep it that way. The last time Module 5 had an active event was 2011. That crew didn't read Appendix F because it wasn't in their binder. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. What? The 2011 crew, 3 personnel. They opened Door 3 during an event because they thought Module 5 was the emergency shelter. They were found when the summer resupply crew arrived in June. Found how? They were in Module 5. They were integrated with the walls. The luminescent material had grown over them, around them. Their shapes were still recognizable, almost like fossils, biological tissue converted to the same material as the luminescent patches. I closed my eyes. They were alive when it happened. We believe so. The positions suggested comfort, lying down, curled up, like sleeping. Like being held, I thought. Like Renner said it felt. I didn't tell the full crew what Singh said about 2011. I told them there had been a previous event, that it was survived by maintaining cold protocol, and that extraction came successfully. I lied by omission. I'm not proud of it, but I had to keep 4 people functional for 72 hours in sub-zero temperatures, and telling them that the warm thing in the walls had eaten the last crew who'd surrendered to it would not have helped Renner's state of mind. What I didn't account for was Nakamura. Nakamura was methodical, observant, and unflappable. Exactly the qualities you want in an overwinter medical officer. She was also the person who noticed at 1600 on February 25th that Renner had a patch on his skin. She called me into Module 2's makeshift medical corner. Renner was sitting on the examination bench with his parka unzipped, thermal shirt pulled up. On his left side, along his ribs, there was a discoloration approximately the size of a playing card. Pale amber, warm to the touch. "It doesn't hurt," Renner said. He was calm. Too calm. "I noticed it this morning, but I thought it was a bruise." "It's not a bruise," Nakamura said. "The tissue is changing. The skin's texture is different, smoother, slightly translucent, and it's 4 degrees warmer than the surrounding skin." 4 degrees, I repeated. That number again. "It's in me," Renner said, and he said it with a kind of wonder that frightened me more than any scream would have. "From when I touched the wall in Module 5, it's been growing since then." "Can you remove it?" I asked Nakamura. "It's subcutaneous. It's not on the skin, it's beneath it, in the fascia. I'd have to excise tissue down to the muscle layer, and I'm not confident about margins, if it's spread further than what's visible." "Don't," Renner said. "Please don't." The 3 of us looked at each other. Then Renner said something that reframed everything. "It's not trying to hurt us. I can feel it. Since it appeared on my skin, I can feel what it wants. It's been alone for so long. Millions of years, Marin. It's been alive down there in the rock since before anything else on this continent was alive, and it's been alone. And then in 1986, we drilled down, and it felt us for the first time. The warmth from the drill, the vibration of machinery, the radio signals leaking through the rock. It learned us. For 38 years it's been learning us. And all it wants—" "Stop," I said. "Is to not be cold. It's so cold down there. It wants to be warm with us." "Renner, stop." He stopped. His eyes were glassy. The patch on his side pulsed faintly. I could see the amber glow through his shirt fabric. "It's affecting his cognition," Nakamura said to me, very quietly. "The patch is interfacing with his nervous system. Whatever he's feeling, empathy, understanding, communication, it's induced, not real." "It feels real," Renner said. "More real than anything I've felt in months." I made the hardest decision of my career. I told Renner he needed to move to the far end of Module 1, isolated from the rest of us. He agreed, not because he thought he was dangerous, but because he wanted quiet to listen. Nakamura sedated him lightly with diazepam from the medical kit. He slept, and while he slept, the patch didn't grow. "The cold," Nakamura said. "The cold is slowing it in the building materials, and maybe in his body too. If we keep ambient temperature low, we slow its progress. And if we warm him up, it accelerates." Probably. So we keep him cold. I'm keeping a hypothermic patient purposefully hypothermic to prevent a parasitic organism from consuming him. This isn't in any medical training I've received. I know. 48 hours in -10 degrees. I will not describe the physical misery in detail because it would overwhelm everything else. I'll say this. Cold at that level is not just temperature. It's a sound. A high-pitched ringing in your ears from vasoconstriction. It's a taste. Metallic, like biting aluminum. It's a weight. Your body expending so much energy on thermoregulation that every movement costs triple. We moved in slow rotation, 2 hours awake, 2 hours in sleeping bags. We melted snow on a camping stove for water. We ate cold rations because cooking would generate heat. Every 6 hours I called Singh and reported. On the 26th, Kowalski noticed the walls were warm again. Not from outside this time. From below. The floor of Module 1 was warming from the substrate up. The thing in the rock wasn't trying the walls anymore. It was coming from underneath. Straight up through the bedrock and concrete foundation. We can't cool the floor from below, Carter said. We can't fight it from this direction. We get off the floor, I said. Onto the bunks. Keep our bodies away from ground contact. And then what? It comes through the floor and fills the room. Then we're on the roof, I said. And then we're outside. Outside is -46. Outside it can't reach us. It's subterranean. It's in the rock, in the building material. It can't exist in open air. The thermal signature on the exterior was always pressed against the structure, never freestanding. You're talking about standing outside in a blizzard. I'm talking about surviving until the aircraft arrives. The floor reached 8 degrees by midnight on the 26th. The amber glow was visible through the linoleum, diffuse, pulsing at 7 seconds. Renner was awake again, sitting on his bunk with his bare feet on the warm floor, and the patch on his side had grown. It now extended from his hip to his lower rib cage, and there was a second one on his left forearm. He didn't seem distressed. He seemed peaceful. It's almost here, he said. It's happy. Renner, put your boots on. I don't want to. Put your boots on or Carter is going to physically put them on you. Carter did. Renner let him, still with that beatific expression. On February 27th at 0340, the storm broke. I don't mean it ended, it stepped down. Wind dropped from 80 knots to 35 in less than an hour. Still dangerous, still white out, but within operational limits for a twin otter on skis. I called Singh. Wind 35 gusting 45. Ceiling unknown but storm is weakening. We need immediate extraction. The floor is compromised. We have one crew member with physical contamination. Aircraft launching now. ETA 3 hours 40 minutes. 3 hours 40 minutes, the longest wait of my life. By 0500, the amber glow was visible on the lower walls of Module 1. Not patches anymore, sheets. Continuous luminescent sheets, climbing from floor to wall junction, advancing upward at a visible rate, maybe a centimeter per minute. The room was warm now, despite the heating being off. The thing was warming the room from within the structure itself, and it smelled like wet stone and something else. Something sweet. Floral, almost. It smells good, Carter said, and immediately looked horrified at himself for saying it. Nobody breathes deep, Nakamura ordered. Shallow breaths, through your scarves. We were fully dressed for exterior conditions, all 5 of us. Even Renner, Carter and I had physically suited him up, while he smiled and didn't resist, and kept saying, "It's okay, it's okay, it wants to meet you, too." At 0600, I made the call. Everyone outside, Now. We exit through Module 1's exterior door. We proceed to the landing strip marker, and we wait for the aircraft there. That's 200 meters in 35 knot winds at -40, Kowalski said. I know. Stay roped together. Move as a unit. And Renner? Renner was standing now, but he wasn't moving toward the exterior door. He was moving toward the Module 2 connector, toward the interior of the station, back toward door 3. Renner, I said, we're leaving. I'm not, he said. I'm going home. He said it with absolute serenity, and the patches on his body, I could see them now, glowing through his parka, through his down layers, amber light leaking from his torso, his arm, and a new one on his neck, pulsed in unison with the walls. He was synchronized. Carter grabbed him. Renner didn't fight exactly. He just became incredibly heavy, rooted, like the floor was holding him. Carter is a strong man, 6'2", former military logistics. He could not move Renner from that spot. His boots, Nakamura said. The soles are... Look. I looked. The soles of Renner's boots had fused with the floor. The amber material had come up through the linoleum and was growing over the rubber, bonding him to the building. Even as we watched, it crept higher, over the boot edge, onto the nylon of his pants. Leave me, Renner said. It's fine. It's so warm. I'll be fine. I looked at him. I looked at the amber climbing his legs. I looked at the peace in his face and thought about what Singh told me. The 2011 crew found curled up in the walls like fossils, in positions of comfort. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be, Renner said. This is the first time in years I haven't felt alone. We left. I say that flatly because there is no way to describe it. That doesn't sound monstrous. We left him. 4 of us went out the exterior door into the screaming wind and the black, and the cold hit us like a physical assault, and we roped together and walked 200 meters to the landing strip beacon, and we stood in the darkness for 2 hours and 37 minutes, rotating who stood on the windward side, sharing body heat, not speaking because the wind made speech impossible. Nakamura's nose froze. She lost the tip of it to frostbite. I could see the white dead patch even in the darkness. Kowalski's fingers, despite double gloves, sustained deep frostbite on 3 digits. Carter was the strongest of us physically, and he kept us oriented, kept us moving in place, kept us alive. The Twin Otter appeared at 0837 as a pair of lights in the gray half-dawn. It landed hard on the strip, ski-equipped. The pilot was extraordinary, and we were aboard in less than 3 minutes. The crew chief counted us. 4, manifest says 5. 1 refused evacuation, I said. He's inside the station. The pilot looked at me. I saw him weighing it. Go back? Try to retrieve? The wind was rising again, a second system moving in. His choice? The pilot asked. I hesitated. No, I said. It wasn't his choice. But we cannot retrieve him. The station interior is not safe for human entry. We flew. Resolute in 4 hours. Hospital. Debrief, debrief, debrief. They sent a military team to Halverson in March when the weather finally stabilized. Full hazmat protocol. I wasn't there, but I read the report. Module 5 was entirely consumed. The walls, ceiling, floor, all converted to luminescent material, pulsing amber. Surface temperature 4 degrees uniformly. The emergency supplies were gone, integrated, absorbed. The generator was unrecognizable. Modules 3 and 4 were in advanced stages of conversion. Module 2 partially converted. Module 1, where we'd maintain cold, was less affected, approximately 40% conversion. Renner was in Module 5, standing in the center of the room. His body was there, recognizable, human-shaped, upright. But he was the same material as the walls now. Amber, translucent, faintly glowing with the 7-second pulse. His face was visible. His expression was peaceful. They couldn't determine if he was alive. His tissue was metabolically active. The luminescent material maintained biological processes in some altered form. But there was no respiration, no heartbeat, no neural activity they could measure with their equipment. He was preserved. He was warm. He was part of it. They didn't remove him. They sealed the station and left. I've read every geological survey of that region available. The thermal stratum beneath Halverson extends further than the 1986 survey indicated. Recent satellite thermal imaging shows the anomaly's footprint has tripled since construction. It's growing outward through the bedrock at approximately 12 meters per year. At that rate, it will reach the coastline of the strait in 600 years. That's not a human timescale. It's a geological one. And whatever lives in that rock has been there for millions of years already. It's patient. It learned us in 38 years of passive observation. It learned to feel welcoming. It learned to feel like warmth, like comfort, like home. I think about Renner most nights. Not with horror. That's what people expect. And it's not accurate. I think about him with something closer to envy. And that scares me more than anything in that station ever did. Because I remember how warm Module 5 was, how my muscles unclenched for the first time in months, how the amber light was beautiful. And I think about how cold it is everywhere else. 3 months after extraction, my apartment in Ottawa. November, early snow. I come home from the grocery store, and the hallway radiator is running, and the building is warm, and I stand in the corridor with my bags and I think, not warm enough, not like that, not down to the bone warm, not held. Nakamura calls me once a week. She's in physiotherapy for her frostbite. Kowalski lost 2 fingers. Carter seems fine, but he moved to Arizona. Somewhere hot, he said. Somewhere I never have to wonder why I feel warm. None of us went back north. But last Tuesday, I was lying in bed at 0200, and I put my hand against the wall behind my headboard, and I could have sworn, for just a moment, that the wall was warm. Not radiator warm, not building heat warm. 4 degrees warm. I pulled my hand away. I turned on the light. I looked at the wall. Off-white paint. No amber. No glow. Nothing. I'm sure it was nothing. I'm almost sure.